I'll accept the. Okay, sorry about that. So welcome to the virtual public meeting. To begin, let's go over a couple of basic controls to help you participate on this platform. So please note, this is an open meeting, and as required by DC Code 2-578, this meeting is being recorded and the recording will be made available to the public. The video file with both audio and video will be shared on the project's website, Cleveland Park-drainage.ddot.dc.gov, and DDOT's YouTube channel, youtube.com/DDOT videos, within 7 days after the meeting has ended. And this meeting is being live streamed to DDOT's Facebook page. That's facebook.com/DDOT-DC. If you do not wish to have your voice recorded, please do not ask to speak. You may enter questions or comments in the Q&A, which we will review shortly. And if you need technical support during this meeting, please call 202-997-8354. So a few ground rules for you, or some information on how to use WebEx audio and video. So everyone is on mute. You cannot unmute yourself. We can unmute you during the Q&A and comment period. This helps to ensure the meeting runs smoothly and that there are no auditory disruptions during the presentation. To request to speak, you will need to use the raise hand feature. Closed captions. WebEx has automatic system-generated closed captions available during the meeting. Click the CC icon in the lower left corner of the window to turn on closed captions. There are additional settings, so you may adjust the appearance of the captions if needed. Using the WebEx mobile application, then click the three dots, scroll down, and select the closed captions option. Make sure the toggle switch is blue. Your video camera is off by default. You will not be able to share video. If you have a question or comment that you would like to speak about, please raise your hand. This indicates to the project team that you would like to speak. Now, to virtually raise your hand, click the raise hand icon on the bottom center of the WebEx window. Alternatively, you may press Control, Shift, and the R keys on your keyboard to raise your hand. If you've joined via browser or mobile app, click the three dot icon and select raise hand. And if you dialed in by phone, dial *3 to use the raise hand function. If you have a question during the presentation, you may send it via the Q&A feature. To do this, click the three dots in the bottom right of the WebEx window and select Q&A. A new panel or window will open. In the Ask field, select all panelists. Click the text box to type your question and press the Enter key to send it. If you joined via browser or mobile app, click the Q&A or question mark icon to access the Q&A to ask a question. And if you dialed in by phone, dial *3 to use the raise hand function. This indicates to the project team that you would like to speak and ask a question. Let me introduce you to the project team. First, we have Tess Tekla. He's the DDOT project manager. And EJ Simi is the DDOT program manager. Prakash Patel, the project manager with the Parsons team. Brian Smith, he's also with Parsons with drainage and stormwater management. Jason Yazawa is the environmental lead with Parsons, and I'm Susan Mishlik. I'm the outreach lead, also with Parsons. For today's meeting, we'll talk about public involvement, project overview, previous and current proposed project, environmental considerations, what happens next, and then we'll have a Q&A, a question and answer session. Jason, you want to talk about public involvement?
Yes, good evening, everybody. In terms of public involvement, the team has conducted a number of activities to keep the public informed about this project. We have periodically prepared fact sheets which provide the current status of the project. The latest fact sheet is shown here in this slide and is available on our project website. We do periodically update the website. For instance, we recently updated the website with information about the drainage improvements that we will be discussing here tonight. We've also conducted public presentations both to the general public back in June 2022 and also before the ANC's 3C and 3F in May of that year. tonight will be our second general public meeting for this project. We will continue to generate public project materials and upload them to the project website, such as this presentation you're reviewing tonight. Finally, the project team is open to participating in special events, so they all can get better understanding of how DDOT is proposing to address the flooding issue. With that, I would like to actually hand it over to Prakash Patel.
Yes. Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. So DDOT, to handle this whole flooding mitigation issue at Cleveland Park, they have broken down into two phases to handle this whole issue. Phase one, which is a Cleveland Park streetscape and a drainage improvement project that mainly handles the runoff along the Cleveland Park, along the Connecticut Avenue, and streetscape improvement as well. That project started and has been constructed, so you can see some of those changes out in the site. Phase two, which is our project, and that is covering the entire watershed-wide improvements. What that means is upstream of this Connecticut Avenue, we are making an improvements, and that's what we started doing the design. We had a public meeting back in the summer of 2022 at 30% design, and we'll continue progressing the design to the next level, and that's where we are now at 60% design. And we would like to share our upgrade of this update of this project. Next slide, please. So as you can see, the red boundary shows the sewer side, Porter Ordway sewer side boundary, while the light blue color is phase one. As I indicated, phase one has been constructed. All the improvements has been done along the Connecticut Avenue and adjacent intersections. While phase two, which will be studying and analyzing that entire source area bounded in the bounded with the red color heavy line. Next slide, please. I wanted to give you an idea on the adjacent sewer-side, watershed boundaries, as well as on the north. As you can see, that's a Malvern Hazen sewer-side, and that entire runoff coming from that area is draining into an outfall into the creek that ultimately drains into a rock creek. Further south is Macomb Newark sewer side, and that also has an outfall, as you can see with that little solid green area. That's an outfall there. While the Porter Ordway sewer side, it has a drainage system that ultimately drains directly into the rock creek, and our focus for phase two is that dashed middle portion of the watersheds. Next slide, please. So as we discussed back in summer of 2022, we did an initial study. We further analyzed this in much more depth. And what we are showing on this slide is the finding of our analysis. This source area is 170 acre wide. It's a huge area, and the largest storm drainage system that they have it running parallel to East Porter Street on the east of Connecticut Avenue is 54 inches. And what we are finding is that sewer itself can handle only 350 cubic foot per second. So you can imagine, how much of a volume that pipe can handle. While based on our analysis, we are finding that 15-year storm, which district normally design all of the storm drainage system, is generating about 900 cubic foot per second. So you can see we have a 900 cubic foot of volume of runoff coming in, while the existing system can handle only 300 cubic feet. So we know that we have to overhaul the existing system. It's capable of about 1/3 of what we are generating it. We came up with several improvements, and we know that some of those based on analysis, we know that they should be improving a lot. So moving on to the details of what we are finding is, next slide, please. So here are the major component of our recommended improvements. We are updating a catch basin, so a lot more surface runoff can go through the opening of the catch basins and go down into the piping systems, underground conveyance systems. And we are finding that underground conveyance piping is also not sufficient. So in a lot of areas, we are making it enlarged. We are making it bigger pipes. We are putting many catch basins. There's about 160 catch basins that we studied, and we are going to make an improvements on those. At the same time, because of the bigger issue, we are putting an extended detention systems, which is nothing but a large diameter, 96-inch diameter pipe, and that will retain the flow and during the peak runoff, and then it will convey back into the existing systems. We are also recommending to put in a 42-inch trunk line, an additional trunk line in addition to a 54-inch line to handle the runoff coming from the north of Connecticut Avenue. We are also considering the green infrastructures. At the same time, we are making sure that we are not adding any more peak flow into the Rock Creek, so that outfall remain intact. Next slide, please. So I would like to have Brian Smith, who is our hydrology and hydraulic analysis expert, lead. He is going to provide you all of the details of all the improvements. Brian?
Thank you, Prakash. So I'm going to discuss some details of the project, and primarily I'm going to compare the project as we presented in summer of 2022 to the level of detail that it is now. So this slide is showing the previously shown design back in summer 2022, and you'll note in the legend the various improvements that summarize the 4 different categories of improvements that the project will provide. So the brown color indicates what we had shown previously for storm sewer improvements. That's the first component. You see the brown lines and dots indicate the catch basins and pipes we had proposed. The second component was the extended detention systems that Prakash discussed. Those carry over to what we're going to currently present, but there's some differences which I'll discuss later. We had 3 extended detention systems indicated by the orange lines there. The first one's off Porter Street, the second one being just to the left of Connecticut Avenue, and the third orange line being all the way to the right, close to Rock Creek. The third component was the additional 42-inch sewer that Prakash discussed that would be constructed beneath Porter Street and parallel to the existing pipe that we have there. And that is indicated by the magenta line, as you can see underneath the Porter Street label. And then the fourth component are the green infrastructure practices, and that's indicated by light blue and darker green. The light blue being pervious concrete alleys, where we propose to reconstruct alleys with pervious concrete, and the darker green being 73 bioretention areas, so streetscape bioretention areas that many of us are now familiar with. The green infrastructure was to provide infiltration of some of that stormwater runoff into the soils and thus reduce runoff into the storm system. Next slide, please. Okay, so that previous presentation compares to what we're doing now. And just a couple things I want to point out. So we still have the four main components that we presented previously. The first component being the storm sewer systems indicated by the brown lines. You see that as we advanced to 65% design, we determined that there were additional areas that needed storm drain piping and inlets. So that compares to what we had before. There's more storm drain systems, specifically on Ordway Street. As you can see there, a lot of brown line work. The second component were the extended detention systems indicated in the yellow. Now those limits remain carried over from what we presented before 2 years ago, but there is a difference, and the difference being that portions of the extended detention systems will now be installed. We propose to install them by trenchless means, and what that means is they'll be installed underground without disturbing the surface of the pavement. And we decided to do that to minimize impacts to the surface, traffic, utilities, as well as adjacent properties. So as indicated, we'll show more detail of this later, but in this slide you see the first and second systems where the label says alleyway. Those are shown partially as dashed lines, and those dashed lines are the limits where we propose to install by trenchless means. This is a benefit to the community because it minimizes disturbance when these are constructed. Okay, the third component, if you recall, is the 42-inch additional trunk line that is located east or to the right of Connecticut Avenue. And that's like the previous slides indicated by the magenta line work. But similar to the extended detention systems, you'll note a portion of that is dashed. And similar to extended detention systems, that dash indicates a long stretch, 1,650 feet to be exact, that we propose to install by trenchless means to avoid impacts to traffic, utilities, etc., for the trunk line installation. And that leads us to the fourth and final component. Like before, it involves the green infrastructure practices. And a big thing that is different than before is we're proposing far fewer of these practices, because as we proceeded with our the detailed data collection, we determined that a large portion of those areas where we proposed green infrastructure are not suitable for good performance of infiltration. So compared to the extensive pervious alleys that we showed previously, you'll note that this time you just have a little tiny portion there on an alley that's just south of Porter Street and east of 30th Street. And then the bioretentions indicated by the dark green, there's only 3 of those compared to the original 73. And there's 3 you can see with the dots. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so now I'm going to go and explain a little more about the extended detention systems and some of the differences compared to what we did before. So what is seen, like I said previously, is that the limits are still the same. So this is extended detention system 1, and it's located off an alleyway that goes off Porter Street and connects Porter Street to 30th Street. So the yellow line work indicates the alignment of the piping that will comprise that system. And as you can see, a large portion of that will be installed by trenchless means, which is shown by the dashed lines. And this section view on the left gives a schematic of what that installation will look like. You'll see, you'll note a 96-inch diameter pipe, which is intended to temporarily hold water and release it slowly, thus controlling the flooding. Next slide, please. This slide is showing extended detention system number 2. That one being located just west of Connecticut Avenue, and similar to number 1, this is located on an alleyway. And this alley connects Porter Street with Ordway Street. And just like the last one, you can see in more detail the portion that will be installed by trenchless means that's indicated by the dashed lines. This installation is a little bit shallower than the extended detention system number 1. If you'll look at the section on the left, you'll see that the depth of this will be between 15 to 22 feet. Okay, next slide. Okay, this slide combines a detailed view of extended detention system number 3, along with the 42-inch trunk line. The section view on the left is a representation of the extended detention system, not the 42-inch. And unlike the extended detention system number 1 and number 2, this one it does not have any portion that is installed by trenchless means. It's only a short portion indicated by the yellow line all the way to the right of the picture view. But more importantly, just want to point out the 42-inch trunk line indicated by the magenta line work. So that kind of gives you an idea of the portion, that 1,650 linear feet that will be installed by trenchless means, indicated by the dashed line there. The solid lines indicate the pipe portions that will be installed by your conventional open trench means, which is a much smaller portion of that 42-inch relative to our proposed trenchless installation. Next slide, please. I just wanted to show once again the green infrastructure, which is now a much smaller part of the project. This just shows a schematic of the 2 practices that are still going to be part of the project. You see the bioretention areas, which are your streetscape installations that many of us have already seen. That compares to a permeable alley, which is to the right there underneath the teal colored car. The permeable alley, looks no different than a conventional alley. It's just a reconstruction of the conventional pavement with a pervious material and some stone underneath. Next slide. And this shows some picture views of the practices. The streetscape bioretention being the top 2 pictures, and a sample of a pervious pavement alley being the bottom picture. Next slide. Okay, then for this, I'm going to hand it back to Prakash to discuss the different means of trenchless installation that we are proposing.
As we saw in the previous graphics, all of the improvements are within a public space, i.e. within the street or alleyway right-of-way. Some places those right-of-ways are really tight, and to minimize the impact, surface impact, as Brian mentions, we are going to use, or we are recommending, a trenchless methods. There are many ways, there are many means and methods of doing a trenchless piping installation. And I'm going to go over a couple of them that we are recommending for EDS system, extended detention systems 1 and 2. as well as that deep piping system we have on a 42-inch trunk line along Porter Street east of Connecticut Avenue. We did geotechnical explorations, and we are finding that the soil is really hard. We encountered the rock in some areas. And so, our recommendations is based on the size of the pipe and the location of the pipe, where we are saying that we need to use a trenchless methods. What I'm displaying here is called a sequential excavation method. And what that do is typically you excavate the hole, a small hole at a time, small section of the piping, you excavate it using a traditional equipment, depending upon the size of the opening and a type of soil that you encounter that you have to excavate. Once that is excavated, then you remove the soil sequentially. And as you remove it, you start reinforcing the sides by putting a shotcrete and a small reinforcement. And once it's excavated all the way through, then you go back and do a final lining, and that will become your conveyance pipe. In this case, we have a 96-inch diameter pipe, and it will be all installed with a minimum impact on the surface, as you can see. Next slide, please. This is the second method, which is more suitable for the 42 inches, a little smaller diameter pipe along Porter Street east of Connecticut Avenue. It's about 1,650 feet length of this pipe will be a drill under the pavement, and the depth of that varies as much as going to maximum about 80 feet. But we will have a drill shaft and the jacking shaft and the receiving shaft, as you can see on the schematic, and we'll be launching the MTB, a micro tunneling boring machine, and that will have jacks and drills, and it course through the soil or rock, whatever it encounter, and as you core it, you drop the section of pipe as is shown in the second schematic. And you continue doing that until you come to your receiving pit, and once it's done, then you finish it up, and that your conveyance pipe, in this case, is 42-inch. Next slide, please. And this is give you an overview. The photo is really zoomed in, but you can see at the bottom of the pit is an MTBM micro tunneling boring machines, and it kind of jack through the soil or a rock, and it occupies about a lane width on the surface where you have a jacking and receiving pit. Next slide, please. And I would like to have Jason go over this environmental consideration. Jason?
Thank you, Prakash. So very early on in this project, the team collected environmental resources and information in the watershed, such as historic properties, parks and recreational resources, water resources, visual and aesthetic conditions, and we compiled this information into an inventory report, which is available on the project website at your convenience if you like to review the information we collected. As Brian said earlier, upon completion of the project, all affected streets will be restored to their pre-construction condition. But also what Brian also said is that, yes, construction impacts are really unavoidable. Therefore, we plan to institute some best management practices to minimize such impacts to the community. Despite the extensive nature of this project, the actual work will be done block to block, not all at once. So the need to make parking restrictions will be minimized. The contractor will be directed to maintain at least one lane of travel unless it is not feasible or safe, in which case detours will be established. Flagmen will be posted to direct safe travel of vehicles through the construction areas. In general, the sidewalks will remain open for pedestrians, although some detours may be required at spot locations. The contractor will also be directed to minimize impacts to trees. This will include placing protective fencing around the trees, and construction does not require the removal of any tree. However, the project may provide opportunities for replacing unhealthy trees. Again, as Brian earlier mentioned, the use of trenchless techniques for the installation of the majority of the detention systems and the new trunk line will reduce noise, vibration, and air quality impacts as compared to traditional trenching methods. And finally, all the required permits will be obtained by the DDOT or the construction contractor, including stormwater management during construction, which is a requirement under the Federal Clean Water Act. Next. And so what happens next? I would like to turn that over to Tess.
Thank you, Jason. Right now we have the 65% design completed, and then it's been reviewed both by DDOT and then all the utility companies, and then also agents including Lumata, DC Water, and then MPS. And then we expect the final design and then bid documents to be submitted by end of this year or early 2025. And then the construction procurement goal is to have it somewhere mid of 2025, end of 2025, or early winter 2026. And then we plan like the goal start the actual construction is on fall 2026. Next slide, please. If you need further information, you can usually visit the website. We update that website. And then if you want to have like specific questions, you can reach me at tesfallen.buckler@dc.gov.
Okay, as a recipient of federal assistance, DDOT must ensure that all of its programs, activities, and public meetings are conducted in compliance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This act ensures non-discrimination based on race, color, or national origin. The Title VI Public Meeting Participant Questionnaire is used to help DDOT ensure that we are informing the public and conducting our meetings in a non-discriminatory manner in compliance with Title VI. Project comments and/or concerns may also be submitted through this form. We appreciate anyone who is willing to complete the form, and we really urge you to please complete it so that our numbers can be accurate. Thank you so much for your participation. And we appreciate your time. We'll start a question and answer session now. So if you have any questions about the Cleveland Park Drainage and Watershed Improvements Project, go ahead. So if you do have a question during the presentation, to send a question, I should say, remember you just click the three-dot icon in the bottom right side of the WebEx window and select Q&A. A new panel or window will appear. In the Ask field, select All Panelists. Click the text box to type your question and press Enter, the Enter key to send. If you joined via browser or mobile app, click the Q&A or question mark icon to access the Q&A to ask a question. And if you dialed in by phone, dial *3 to use the raise hand function. This indicates to the project team that you would like to speak and ask a question.
I think there's a chat came through.
I'm not seeing it on my screen.
The question is, I'm wondering about the capacity of the retention pipes. When we have one of these very heavy storms, how long a storm will take to fill up the retention pipes?
I can answer that. This is Brian Smith.
Is
So the main purpose of the detention pipes is to to make a balance between the amount of water that we're putting into the storm drains and what we previously discharged into Rock Creek. So one of the project goals, and this was conveyed to the project team by the Park Service. One of the project goals was that we refrain from increasing flows into Rock Creek. And how that would happen is with the undersized storm drain, we have, of course, a lot of ponding on the street surface, primarily Connecticut Avenue, and that's what spills into the Cleveland Park Metro Station. So our improvements, if you recall, the components of the improvements, the first component was adding all the inlets and the pipes. Now that would do a good job in taking the water off of the surface, but at the same time, that would discharge the water much more efficiently to Rock Creek. So this is why we have these extended detention systems. So the extended detention systems are intended to be large bathtubs that hold water and release it slowly. Therefore making sure that everything doesn't, come out at once into Rock Creek. So I guess to answer the question about how long it will take, I mean, every rain event is different. That's why some are intense and short. Other rain events are less intense but longer. So it's going to be very variable of how long they would take to fit. Roughly speaking, these can, if you have the kind of rain events that that we've seen that flood the metro station, they could fill up in as soon as an hour. But the good part is that the rain will be over in an hour. So the pipes will be approximately full, but we'll release it slowly through an outlet structure. So I hope that answered the question. The very, very long answer, but the short summary is it's variable, but we generally expect it to fill up in about an hour or so if we have a very intense rain.
Okay, we have another question here. I can finally see them now. Due to the significant impact on the residents in the areas where the work will be done, will DDOT drop off flyers at the homes of the impacted residents to inform them? Since with only 10 attendees tonight, it looks like most of the residents who will be impacted may be in the dark. So yes, I'm sure we'll use a lot of different methods to try to get the information across to everyone. We do have the website, of course. Typically, we do door hangers. I'm not sure if we'll go door to door with for people, but we will have other ways to let people know what's going on, of course.
Yeah, to what Susan says, that we DDOT has a policy and procedures in notifying community. We'll have a advanced notification. There will be an advanced warning signs along major streets, telling 2 weeks prior to construction, and every possible notifications that DDOT normally do on their project will be conducted on this project as well.
In addition, every time there's a plan to, as he indicated, there may be from time to time a detour or reduction of the number of lanes accessible within a block or two, because they're never going to take more than 2 blocks at a time. Trying to do just 1 block. The information will also be blasted on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and will be sent out to DC Alert. So we have always encouraged all of our residents to sign up for DC Alert. And last but not least, on WTOP radio, and usually Channel 9 picks it up and does an excellent job 73 hours before the work begins.
Okay.
So Susan, I see a new message in the chat.
Okay, this one, is there any news about the stream at the north end of your watershed? Melvin Hazen, known to NPS as Res 630, the massive backup in the basin immediately west of the pipe under Connecticut Avenue is a mess, but the perched mud must not be allowed to flood downstream. This is a long-term problem with the NPS boundaries, but surely the district has storm drains emptying into this little canyon as well.
I can have an introductory answer to that.
I can talk about that.
Go ahead, Tess.
The project, I mean, the goal of this project, I know there are some issues on the culvert on the north side of this project at the Melvin Hazen outfall, but I don't know what the developments are NPS handling, or what project they have for that area. But to speak about this project, the goal of this project is basically to improve the drainage, the storm sewer networks in the Porter Watershed outfall into Rock Creek, which affects the Cleveland metro station.
Yeah, to what Tess mentioned, we had an extensive coordination with National Park Service, and right from the beginning, they told us that all of the streams upstream, the Klingle Valley stream down on the south side, they are saying they took them a long time to stabilize this all the stream, and so that is the main reason why we are not adding any more outfall, but rather do an extended detention system to manage the flood. Brian, if you have anything else to add?
Yeah, just to clarify that, the Melvin Hazen, as was shown on the one slide we had, is a separate sewer shed with a separate outfall. So this project, specifically focuses on the Porter Ordway sewer shed, which doesn't contribute anything to Melvin Hazen. Melvin Hazen's just a different outfall. So none of the improvements of the project will affect, one way or the other, the Melvin Hazen stream.
I would like to respond to this nice note about the newsletter. We can and will have the outreach person work with the council member's office through their constituent director and their chief of staff to provide them the updates so that they can also add them to the newsletter that goes to Ward 3 residents. And second, in terms of buildings, we've done extensive work in your quarters on other issues, not specifically storm water management. And we have been able to identify the management companies of these buildings where they all have reception desks, and they will take in fact sheets that they will leave on their reception desk available for residents to pick up when they come in and out.
I want to bring that up is pardon us, but because we've been still keep saying Malvern Hazen as well. That area is changed to they call it a reservation 360, I believe. So if we are misspeaking about some of those stream, please pardon us.
We do have a little bit more time left. If anyone has any more questions.
Any questions out there? I invite any feedback on any specific nature of the improvements.
Looks like we have, you are correct that the Park Service now calls it res, what did you say, 360 or 306? But 99% of the residents know it as Melvin Hazen. So please use both names. So we have another question. In particular, what happens if the retention system next to Porter Street fills up? Will that mean that no more water can enter the system? And so will Connecticut Avenue flood, I'm so sorry. And so will once again flood Connecticut Avenue.
I can answer that. The extended detention systems are again to repeat, they're intended to ensure that we don't have too much flow going to Rock Creek at once. If they fill up, and they can, because each rainstorm is different. I mean, if you have one of those super intense, say 1,000-year storms, it will fill up completely. But that doesn't mean it's going to spill out into the street. Of course, there will be surface runoff everywhere, because the catch basins are designed to intercept the 15-year storm. So if you do have a high intense storm, that no storm drain system can handle the worst of the worst. But specifically for extended detention systems, we do have some redundancy in place of the design, in that when the pipes fill, the water will be allowed to spill over and bypass and continue into the storm drain pipes downstream. So it's not like they'll be filled up and spurt out like a fountain. Then instead they'll spill over the redundant overflow, we call them weirs, the overflow weirs, and will continue to be contained in the storm drain pipes. The systems have a pretty good depth, beneath the ground, so that ensures that even the overflows still stay underground.
To add on what Brian said, the system is designed for a 15-year storm. So if a 25-year or something larger storm is to occur, then basically the catch basins will not handle it. It will just bypass source and then can flood the streets. But this system is efficiently designed to handle a 15-year storm.
What's for certain is the frequency of flooding after this system is in place will go down noticeably. It won't make it go away, 100% of the time, but it'll be far less frequent than before.
Do you have any other concerns, questions, comments? Well, you're welcome.
Like, we stated phase one uh, was, and they have done an improvements along Connecticut Avenue, and phase two is supplementing what they have done in terms of preventing all of the flow coming from upstreams. And a very little bypass flow is gonna come on Connecticut Avenue from the upstream areas. Or questions, comments?
If you have like any questions at any time, feel free to reach out by email, by phone.
If anyone wants us to go over anything else again, just let us know. Put it in the chat.
You may want to put up the screen that has your website and your contact name and emails for the few attendees who are still remaining with us.
Okay, let me have to. Oh, there we go.
His presentations on the project website.
Looks like we have 2 attendees left. Do either of you want to ask anything else?
I think if there are no any more questions, we can conclude today's meeting.
Okay, well,
Ms. P, is there anything that you would like to say?
I just encourage everyone who are still here, as you exit, please complete the Title VI form.
right. Should we wrap it up then? I
Yes,
appreciate
ma'am.
everybody's time. Thank you so much.
Yes. Good night, all.
All right. Good night. Thank you so
Night.
much.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.